Night shifts at St. Augustine Hospital were slow, silent, and suffocating. Security guard Daniel Reed had been working there for almost 5 years, and he'd grown used to the emptiness. The hum of fluorescent lights, the steady echo of his own footsteps, the cold metallic taste of the air at 2 a.m. was the kind of silence that made you hear things that weren't there. That night, Daniel's shift was routine. Check the east wing, lock the stairwell doors, deliver reports to the morgue. Standard stuff. He carried a small thermos of coffee and his flashlight, both more for comfort than necessity. When the clock hit 12:02 a.m., he stepped into the service elevator, pressed the button for the basement, the morgue level, and waited. The hum of machinery filled the small space, and the fluorescent light overhead flickered once, twice. Then, the elevator dinged, only it didn't stop at B. Instead, the digital display above the door flashed a number that didn't exist on the hospital map, -14. Daniel frowned. "That's not right," he muttered. There were only 13 floors, and he'd been in that elevator 100 times before. Before he could react, the elevator jolted slightly and came to a stop. The doors slid open with a soft hiss, revealing darkness. There was no hallway light, no sound, just an endless, pitch-black corridor stretching ahead. But the strangest part was the air. It felt different, thick, heavy, almost warm, like breathing inside a machine. Hesitated, shining his flashlight into the dark. The beam cut through the shadows, landing on a row of patient room doors. Each was numbered -1401, 1402, 1403, all the way down the hallway. Except, there wasn't supposed to be a floor 14. As Daniel stepped closer to the threshold, the elevator doors began to close on their own, as if warning him to stay inside. He jammed his hand between them to stop them. Maintenance probably messed up the system, he whispered to himself, though his voice trembled. He stepped out. The floor tiles were grimy, covered in dark smudges. Every few seconds, his flashlight would flicker, revealing glimpses of movement in the shadows. But no one was there. He passed the first door, -1401. It had scratch marks around the handle. The second, -1402, was slightly open, and from inside came the faintest sound of breathing, slow, steady, and wet. "Hello," Daniel called. "Security. Anyone in there?" "No," reply. "Just that breathing in and out, ragged and low." He pushed the door open with his flashlight. The room inside was dim. The bed was empty. The monitor beside it was on, showing a pulse 88 BPM. Daniel froze. None of this made sense. There were no patients down here. The machines on that level hadn't worked in decades. Then, click. The door behind him shut. He turned quickly, pointing the flashlight back toward the door, and saw a handprint on the glass. Small, childlike, fresh. "Okay, this isn't funny," he muttered, backing away. The monitor's pulse quickened. 90, 93, 96 BPM. And with each beep, the lights flickered faster. Then, the breathing stopped. And in the reflection of the monitor, Daniel saw something behind him. A figure, pale and thin, standing in the corner of the room. Its eyes were black pits, and its mouth hung open like a broken hinge. A spoon around, but the corner was empty. The pulse flatlined. That's when Daniel he threw open the door and sprinted down the hallway, pounding the elevator button again and again. The air grew colder. Behind him, doors began slamming open, one after another, as if something was following him. He didn't look back. The elevator dinged, and the doors opened just as a shadow crossed the far end of the hallway. Tall, inhuman, dragging something across the floor. Daniel dove inside and smashed the L button. The door slid shut, and he heard a faint whisper from the other side. It sounded like his own voice. "Don't go back down." The elevator jerked violently, lights flickering, and then it began to move fast. Too fast. He stumbled, gripping the rail as the floor numbers blinked in reverse. 14, 13, until it stopped at the lobby. The doors opened. The hospital was normal again. Daniel stumbled out, shaking, and ran straight to the security room. He rewound the CCTV footage to the time he entered the elevator to 12:03 a.m. On the screen, he saw himself step inside, press the button, and wait. But the elevator never moved. The footage froze exactly at 12 hours, 3 minutes and 12 seconds a.m. The same minute, the morgue alarm went off in the basement. When the night crew checked, they found the morgue's freezer doors wide open, and on the inside of one, drawn in frost, were the words 14. Have you ever heard of the elevator? They say it's a way to travel to another world, but let me warn you, it's not a place you want to visit. The rules are specific, and if you mess up, you might not come back. I'm going to try it tonight, right here in this building. It has to be a building with at least 10 floors, and this one has 15. It also needs to be late, after midnight, when the building is empty. Just me and this elevator. Okay, here we go. First, you get in the elevator alone. That's crucial. You press the button for the 4th floor, then the 2nd, then the 6th, then back to the 2nd, then the 10th. If you've done it correctly, the elevator will start its journey. Don't get out. No matter what, after the 10th floor, you press the 5th. This is where it gets strange. When the doors open on the 5th floor, they say a woman might get on. You must not look at her. Do not speak to her. She isn't what she seems. My heart is pounding right now. It feels like the air just got colder. Now, for the final step, after she gets on, you press the button for the 1st floor. But instead of going down, the elevator will begin to ascend, past the 10th floor, the 11th, the 12th, all the way up. They say, this is the point of no return. The only way to know you've arrived is when the elevator finally stops. You'll be in a world that looks almost like ours, but it's dark, empty, and silent. And the only light you'll see is a red cross in the distance. They say the woman from the elevator, she's still with you, and you're the only other living thing there. The only question left is, how do you get back? Every small town has that one house, the kind everyone knows about, but no one goes near. Ours was called the Whisper House. An abandoned 2-story home at the end of Hollow Creek Lane, the kind of place that makes the air colder the closer you get. People said the walls spoke after dark, that if you listened long, you'd start to hear your own voice whispering back. Most said it was a story made to scare kids, until last winter, when someone finally went inside. Scene 1. The dare. It started with a dare for friends, Ethan, Laura, Miles, and Jenna, recording a video for their Urban Legends YouTube channel. They wanted views. They wanted proof, so they broke into the Whisper House at 11:57 p.m. on a freezing Friday night. The front door was already open, just enough to let the wind sigh through it. Inside, everything was covered in dust, except for a single clean path leading down the hallway, like someone had just walked through. Laura whispering, "It smells like metal." Miles, "Blood smells like metal." They laughed it off. The camera light flickered, and somewhere upstairs, something whispered back, "Leave." Seen to the discovery, they thought it was the wind. Until Ethan replayed the audio, it wasn't the wind. The voice said leave. Clear. Human. Right behind them. They decided to go upstairs. Each step creaked like the house was groaning. The walls were scratched, long claw marks, as if something had tried to dig its way out. In the master bedroom, they found a mirror covered in words, written in the dust with a finger. "Docents of team, all the same phrase. Can you hear me?" As Miles leaned closer to record, the mirror fogged from the inside, and a line appeared on its surface. "Drawn by something unseen." "Now I can hear you." Scene 3. The basement door, Laura screamed. They turned. She was staring at the floor. Underneath the rug was a trapdoor. They hadn't noticed it before. From beneath came faint whispering. Hundreds of overlapping voices, rising and falling like the house itself was breathing. Ethan, always the brave one, grabbed the handle. The metal was warm. When he lifted it, the whispering stopped. Completely. He shone the flashlight down and saw a narrow staircase leading into darkness at T-bottom. Something moved. A shadow, not its own. Scene 4. The descent they should have left, but they didn't. Ethan went first, holding the camera. His breathing was shaky. "Ethan, it's just a cellar. It's fine." "There's nothing." A whisper cut him off. "Behind you." He turned, and for a moment, everyone watching later swore they saw it. A pale shape crawling along the wall. Its mouth stretched open, but it wasn't speaking. The whispering wasn't coming from it. It was coming from the walls. Hundreds of voices, crying, begging, screaming in unison, "Let us out." The lights died. The camera hit the ground. Scene 5. The last recording. When police found the footage the next morning, the group was gone. The Whisper House was empty, except for 4 sets of footprints leading inside, and only 3 coming back out. The final minute of the tape was corrupted, but a faint voice remained underneath the static. It wasn't one of the friends. It whispered, "We can hear you now." Then, silence. Final scene. 1 year later, the house still stands, boarded up. Forgotten, but every year, on the same night, they entered, the front door unlocks itself. And if you stand outside at exactly 3:33 a.m., you can hear it faint, from somewhere deep inside, a voice whispering through the wood. "Can you hear me?" Fade out, slow heartbeat, static noise. They say every old house has its stories, but this one had whispers, not the creaks of settling wood or the sigh of wind through eaves. These were different. Human. I found the house by accident, tucked away on a forgotten country road, a for-sale sign half swallowed by ivy. It was a steal, a ridiculously low price for a place so grand, even in its state of decay. The real estate agent, a nervous man with shifting eyes, just shrugged when I asked why. "Needs a lot of work," he'd mumbled, an understatement. The first night, I heard it, a faint murmur. Like a far-off conversation carried on the breeze, I dismissed it as the wind. The second night, Ida was closer, a soft, sibilant sound, just at the edge of hearing. I checked the windows, the doors, all sealed tight. By the third night, I couldn't deny it anymore. The whispers were inside the house. They seemed to come from the walls themselves, docents of team overlapping, a constant, hushed chorus. I tried to make out the words, but they were a jumble, a meaningless stream of syllables. It was maddening. During the day, the house was silent, sun-drenched, and almost peaceful. But as soon as dusk fell, the whispering would begin. Slowly at first, then building in volume until the whole house seemed to hum with it. Sleep became a stranger. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding in time with the faint, incessant movement. One evening, desperate for a solution, I took a hammer to the living room wall, where the sound was strongest. The plaster crumbled, revealing the old lath, and, behind it, something else. Tucked between the wooden slats were dozens, maybe hundreds, of tiny, tightly rolled scrolls of paper. My hands trembled as I pulled one out. Unrolling it, I found a single word written in faded ink. "Listen." I pulled out another, "Help." And another, "Trapped." My blood ran cold. I started pulling them out frantically, each one bearing a single, desperate word. Alone, scared forever. It wasn't just whispers in the walls. It was voices, souls, trapped and begging to be heard. That's when I heard a new sound, not a whisper, but a clear voice, right behind me. "You hear us now? Spoon around." The room was empty, but the whispering had changed. It was no longer a jumble. All Harun May from every corner of the house, a single, unified phrase rose in a terrifying crescendo, over and over. "Let us out." I ran. I didn't grab my keys, my wallet, nothing. I just sprinted out the front door and didn't look back. I drove until the sun came up. Sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet and the wind is just right, I think I can still hear them, a faint murmur on the air. And I wonder if anyone else has been foolish enough to buy the Whisper House, and if they're listening to the walls, too. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more chills. Stay safe out there and check your walls. Tokyo was never truly quiet, even at 3 a.m. The city hummed with neon lights, vending machines, and distant traffic. But for Aiko Tanaka, her small one-room apartment in Shibuya was her escape. Quiet, safe, and cheap. Too cheap. The scratching had started one night in early spring. Aiko was brushing her teeth when she heard a faint scratching sound like fingernails on glass coming from behind the bathroom mirror. She leaned closer. The sound stopped. She tapped the mirror. It echoed slightly hollow. At first, she thought it might be mice or pipes, but the scratching returned the next night. Louder this time. More deliberate. Not random, rhythmic. Like someone tracing the outline of the mirror from the other side. She told her landlord, who sent a maintenance worker. He checked the walls, the pipes, even removed part of the sink. Nothing. He laughed it off. Old building. Sound travels funny. But Aiko wasn't convinced. The nights get louder over the next week. She couldn't sleep. Every night, around 2:11 a.m., the scratching returned. Then came the whispers, faint, muffled words she couldn't understand. Once, when she leaned in close, she swore she heard her own name. Aiko. Her heart froze. She stumbled backward, knocking over a shampoo bottle. When she turned back, the mirror's surface looked wet, like condensation from the other side, except her bathroom was freezing cold. That night, she slept with the lights on. The discovery by the fourth night, fear turned to anger. She couldn't live like this, so Aiko decided to remove the mirror herself. She grabbed a screwdriver from her kitchen drawer and began prying around the edges. It was heavier than she expected. The glass was thick, sealed tightly. When it finally came loose, the mirror clattered against the wall, and behind it was a hole. A black, gaping square in the wall, about 2 feet wide. The smell hit her first, a mix of rot, dust, and something sour. She shone her phone's flashlight into the darkness, revealing another room. Old wallpaper. Empty food containers. A dirty mattress. Someone had been living there. The breathing her heart pounded. She whispered, "Hello? Is someone there?" Silence. Then, breathing, slow, raspy, human, Aiko staggered back. The phone slipped from her hand, the flashlight spinning wildly, landing on something in the hole. A hand, thin, pale fingers gripping the edge of the wall from the other side. She screamed and bolted out of the bathroom, slamming the door shut. From Benedict, she heard the faint tap, tap, tap against the mirror, still leaning on the floor. The police. It took Aiko almost half an hour to gather herself enough to call the police. When officers arrived, she was shaking, her voice barely steady. They didn't believe her at first, until they saw the hole. They entered with flashlights and weapons drawn. Moments later, one officer shouted, "There's someone here!" From the darkness, a man emerged. Dirty, thin, wearing clothes caked with grime. His eyes blinked against the light. He said nothing, just stared at Aiko. When they arrested him, he smiled and whispered in Japanese, "Don't close it yet." The aftermath. The investigation revealed he had been living behind her mirror for almost a year. Police found food wrappers, bottles of water, even a small radio. But the worst part, he wasn't just any intruder. He was a missing tenant, someone who used to live in that same building 3 years earlier. He'd vanished one night and had been declared dead. The police were still trying to figure out how he got back in, and why none of the cameras in the building ever caught him. Aiko moved out that night, leaving everything behind. The new tenant 3 months later. The apartment was rented to another young woman. She never knew the story, until one evening, while brushing her teeth, she heard a faint scratching from behind the mirror. She leaned in. The sound stopped. Then, very softly, a voice whispered, "Don't close it yet, Ave." It was the winter of 1999 when 5 college students volunteered for a week-long sleep experiment at the university's neuroscience lab. The project was simple, or so they were told. The researchers wanted to study lucid dreaming, the ability to control your dreams. Each volunteer would stay in a soundproof isolation room for 7 days. No clocks, no sunlight, no phones, only cameras, a bed, and a single red button marked emergency exit. The lead scientist, Dr. Adrian Keller, explained, "We believe dreams are not just thoughts, they're doors, and some doors, once opened, can't be closed." The 5 volunteers, Evan, Lisa, Marcus, Claire, and Jordan, laughed nervously. They didn't believe in ghost stories. They just wanted the $500 reward. Day 1. The setup: the rooms were cold and plain. White walls, one bed, one camera pointed directly at them. Meals came through a metal hatch. The students talked through intercoms at first, making jokes to pass the time. But by the end of the first night, the silence started to get heavy. You could almost hear the emptiness pressing against the walls. Dr. Keller monitored their brainwaves from the control room. Everything looked normal: deep sleep cycles, mild REM activity. But around 3:33 a.m., one of the monitors glitched just for a second and showed 2 heartbeats coming from a single body. He assumed it was a technical error. Day 2, the whispers. By the second night, Evan reported something strange. He told the intercom, "I keep hearing whispering in my room, like someone's humming through the vents." Keller assured him it was just his mind reacting to isolation. But when the technicians replayed the night's audio, there was humming, a faint melody, slow, rhythmic, coming from inside the room. It didn't match Evan's breathing. They decided not to tell the others. Day 3, the laughter. On the 3rd day, Marcus began laughing uncontrollably during his sleep. It started soft, then louder, until it turned into gasping, choking fits. When Keller and his team rushed to check on him, Marcus was wide awake. But he wasn't responding. He just stared into the camera and whispered, "It knows I'm awake now." They sedated him and moved him to a monitoring bed. But his vitals were wrong. His heart rate would spike whenever the lights dimmed. And when Keller asked what he saw in his dreams, Marcus said, "Eyes. Just eyes, watching me from behind the dark." Day 4. The connection. The remaining students, Lisa, Jordan, Claire, and Evan, began showing similar symptoms: insomnia, paranoia. They claimed they could feel something moving when they tried to fall asleep, like their bodies were sinking through their beds into another place. One of them drew on the wall. Hundreds of open eyes, staring, bleeding, blinking. When Keller saw the sketches, he realized each drawing matched the electrical pattern from their brain scans. It wasn't random. Something was using their dreams to communicate. That night, all cameras in the lab began flickering. Static filled the monitors, and for 6 seconds, all 5 rooms went black. When power came back, Marcus was gone. The bed was empty. No blood. No signs of struggle. Just the walls, covered in new drawings of eyes that hadn't been there before. Day 5, the Devi Lisa refused to sleep. She sat on the floor, crying, saying, "If I sleep, it comes closer. It's already in my head." Claire begged to quit the experiment, pressing the emergency button repeatedly. But the door didn't open. Keller's assistant swore he'd unlocked it. The mechanism simply wouldn't move, like something was holding it shut. Jordan stopped eating. He stared at the camera for hours, murmuring the same sentence over and over, "They come when you dream." When Keller tried speaking to him, Jordan looked directly into the camera and said, "You're next. Day 6, the collapse. By the 6th night, all the EEG brain monitors showed the same anomaly, the same rhythmic spike Keller had seen before. 5 separate minds. synchronized. It was as if they were dreaming together. Then, one by one, the monitors flatlined. The team rushed to the isolation rooms. Every door was unlocked now. Every light flickered violently. Inside, each room was empty. Beds unmade. Cameras shattered. The walls, all of them painted with that same phrase, written over and over. I stayed awake so the thing behind my dreams couldn't follow me. At exactly 3:33 a.m., every power source in the building died. Aftermath. When emergency crews arrived hours later, they found Keller alone in the control room. He was sitting in the dark, mumbling. The footage from the experiment was still running, but what played wasn't what they expected. The cameras showed the students still in their rooms, sleeping peacefully. Only when Keller tried to rewind or stop the feed, it didn't respond. And if you looked closely, there was a sixth figure in the corner of each room, standing still, facing the camera. Keller whispered. It learned how to cross over a slightly shaky, hushed voice. Begins, "Hey everyone. So, I need to tell you about something that happened. A few weeks ago, I was scrolling online, and I saw an ad for a paid sleep study. It sounded easy enough. Get paid to sleep, right? The facility was this old, renovated building way out in the woods, which I thought was kind of cool and atmospheric at the time. Bad decision. The first night was weird, but not terrifying. They hooked me up to all these wires and monitors. I remember drifting off, feeling the weight of all the equipment. But then, I woke up suddenly around 3 a.m. The room was pitch black, but I heard something, a faint scratching sound, coming from the corner of the room. I tried to sit up, but I felt paralyzed. I couldn't move a muscle, couldn't even scream. I just lay there, listening to the scratching get closer and closer, until it sounded like it was right next to my bed. Then, silence. I must have passed out from fear, because the next thing I knew, a nurse was gently waking me up for the morning. I tried to tell her what happened, but she just smiled and said, "Sleep paralysis and auditory hallucinations are quite common in unfamiliar environments." She was so dismissive, I almost left right then. But the money was good, and I convinced myself she was right. I was just spooked. The second night, that's when things got truly awful. I fell asleep faster this time, exhausted, but I woke up again. Same time, 3 a.m. The paralysis was back, but it was worse. I felt an incredible weight on my chest, pressing down, making it hard to breathe. My eyes were wide open, staring into the darkness. And then I saw it, a tall, slender figure standing in the same corner, just a silhouette against the faint moonlight from the window. It didn't have a face, just a smote pale surface, where a face should be. Slowly, it started to move towards me. It didn't walk. It glided across the floor without a sound. The scratching I heard the night before. It was the sound of its long, thin fingers dragging along the floorboards. As it loomed over my bed, it landed down, and that crushing weight on my chest intensified. I could feel its cold, empty presence right above me. I was screaming in my head, begging for someone to come in, but nothing came out. I just lay there, trapped in my own body, staring at this faceless nightmare. I don't know how I survived that night. When the nurse came in the morning, I was a wreck. I ripped the sensors off, got dressed, and ran out of there. I didn't even care about the money. They keep calling me, saying they need to complete the study. But I know what they're really studying. It wasn't my sleep. It was asterisk. Thanks for listening to my story. Be careful out there. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to hear more. Stay safe.